evening's webinar on mentor mentee, anyone, any stage. We have John Cliff. John, in a number of cases, needs no introduction due to time in the sector and support that he has provided to many over the years. I have personally known John for some time and know that he is extremely passionate about supporting those that are on their professional development journey. John works for the Environmental Agency as an asset performance technical advisor. In 2001, just to give you a bit of history about John, John passed a managing safely course that sparked his interest in health and safety. He then became a chartered member of IIRSM in 2010, and in March 2023, he was transferred to a chartered fellow. John has been a member of IIRSM for over 10 years as well, and is obviously a valued member of the organisation. We are grateful, obviously, to John for sparing his time to provide this webinar to members, as there are many of us that will have questions about the role of both a mentor and a mentee. There may be a number of, obviously, a number of people attending that are looking to start this process, so it's hoped that this will be of benefit to obviously those people. John has a small number of slides that obviously John will run through, providing a little bit of information. But as this meeting is being held through the Zoom meeting platform, we wanted this session to be as interactive as is possible, and are looking forward to a number of questions from those that have been able to attend this event. All being well, we will unmute microphones, or you can, as Julie said, unmute yourselves to allow for these questions to be put to John personally. You can still use the chat function, should you wish. If questions cannot be answered, then obviously we hope to get back to you at some point in the near future. Finally, thank you to our networks manager, Julie, for assisting with this event, who will also be possibly facilitating with some of the questions along with myself, and also for John, to John, should I say, for agreeing to do this webinar. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for inviting me today. It's it's great to be back with IIRSM, committee member a few years ago. So it's nice to be back in this group again. So a bit about me. I mean, Tony, you just stole my thunder there, mate. So I started off with the Environment Agency back in 1989, some 34 years ago. I developed a wide range of skills during that time. The past 20 years or so focused on occupational safety and health and risk management. I'm now the operations incident lead and flood and coastal risk management advisor. So that's a big job title there. I'm based in Derby. I'm a member of IIRSM. I'm a chartered fellow of IOSH, and I chair the IOSH peer review interview panel. So that's me. So why mentoring? When I first started out on this role, there was very little help. So you went it alone, hope for the best. I'm confident I would have benefited from having a mentor earlier on in my career. And focusing on that point is the main reason why I became a mentor. I am currently a mentor. I have also recently been a mentee myself. So, I can see both sides of the table. So, a couple of quotes I made from an article I wrote, which featured on another well-known professional bodies mentoring website. So, which I've written a few articles and featured on a few things with IIRSM and the other professional bodies websites as well. So that's what these people are the next generation of professional practitioners. They're learning, curious, full of ideas, theories and concepts. It's a two-way street, I find. So because as a mentor, I can also learn from them and pass this on to other mentees. So it's a continuous process of learning, mentoring. They're learning from me, I'm learning from them, I'm passing it on to others. It's a big sharing experience. I enjoy building a rapport with a mentee, getting to know their skills, knowledge, experience, and what they need from me. Hopefully we're gaining mutual respect and trust in one another, again, which is it's satisfying. So coaching or mentoring. The next few slides I've taken from sources on the internet. So these aren't my words. It's anybody can go on there. They can find them. They can use them. But that's what we do. We go and research and have a look at stuff. So coaching, it's a form of development in which an experienced person called a coach supports a learner or client in achieving a specific personal or professional goal by providing training and guidance. Occasionally, coaching may mean an informal relationship between two people, of whom one has more experience and expertise than the other, and offers advice and guidance as the latter learns. Coaching differs from mentoring by focusing on specific tasks or objectives. Now, mentoring is opposed to more general goals or overall development. According to the Business Dictionary, a mentor is a senior or more experienced person who is assigned to function as an advisor, counsellor, or guide to a junior or trainee. The mentor is responsible for offering help and feedback to the person under their supervision. The mentor's role, according to this definition, is to use their experience to help a junior employee by supporting them in their work and career, providing comments on their work, and most crucially, offering direction to mentees as they work through problems and circumstances. So, mentoring techniques. As the focus of mentorship is to develop the whole person, the techniques used are broad and require wisdom to be appropriately used. So a study in 1995, which is nearly 30 years ago, of mentoring techniques most commonly used in business found that the 5 most commonly used techniques amongst mentors were accompanying, which is the mentor participates in the learning process alongside the learner and supports them. Sowing, the mentor gives initially unclear or unacceptable advice, so the learner has value in it in a given situation. Catalyzing, the mentor chooses to plunge the learner right into change to provoke a different way of thinking, a change in identity or reordering of values. Showing, so the mentor teaches the learner by demonstrating skill or activity. And harvesting, so the mentor assesses, defines, and values the learner's skills and brings them to fruition. And different techniques may be used by mentors according to the situation and the mindset of the mentee. So different types of mentors. So a new trend is to have multiple mentors. I use this quite a lot and say this to the person. You know, you can have more than one, but it needs to be agreed. You know, you need to be open about it. So having more than one mentor can expand the learner's knowledge, as different mentors may have different strengths. Just like I said, just make sure the mentee are open about it. Professional or trade. So this is someone who is currently in a trade or profession. The learner is entering. They know the trends, important changes, new practices that newcomers should know to stay at the top of their careers. A mentor like this will be someone a learner can discuss ideas with, and also provides the learner with the opportunity to network with other individuals in the trade or profession. Industry mentor. So this is someone who does not only focus on a profession, but can also give an insight into the industry as a whole, such as research, development, or key changes. An organisation mentor. So politics in organisations are constantly changing. It is important to be knowledgeable about the values, strategies, and products that are within the organisation. When they change, an organisation mentor can give clarity when needed, for example, on missions and strategies. Work process mentor. So this mentor can cut through unnecessary work, explains the ins and outs of projects and day-to-day tasks, eliminate unnecessary things in the learner's workday. So this mentor can help finish tasks quickly and efficiently. And finally, technology mentor. So technology has been rapidly improving and becoming more of a part of a day-to-day transactions within companies. Technology mentor can help with technical breakdowns, advise on systems that may work better than what the learner is currently using, and coach them in using new technology. So top tips for mentors and mentees. So start the conversation, focus on expectations, objectives, goal setting, and ultimately where you are best matched to achieve these. Both the mentor and the mentee need to be comfortable, so don't be dismayed if you're not compatible. I've had meetings with mentees that have set out, they want to do this, and I've said to them, I'm not quite that person to be able to offer that, or what I've offered, they might not want. So it's that talk, it's that discussion before you actually leap into it. And things do change as well. So I'll talk about that in a minute or two. So use the tools where appropriate. So you can set out the scope using these tools. So SWOT, G-STAR and SMART, you might have seen these in businesses. It's used quite widely. So SWOT, so it's understanding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So these are things you can discuss with your mentee. G-STAR, so G for goals, so the current situation, thinking, actions, results, and then looking at SMART. So you must have seen this in business. So where you want to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound. So those are about the results. So as a mentor, be mindful of how many mentees you have and realistic about the best service you can provide for them. So I tend to just have one mentee, sometimes two, because I want to give them my best that I can give them. If you've got half a dozen mentees, you're not devoting enough time to them, especially if you're working, you've got a full-time job as well. So, you know, I do a lot of this in my spare time. I also am allowed at work to take time out and spend a bit of time with mentees as part of, and I'll put it down to my CPD as well, you know, so it's you know, I can get that time away to do it. I'm allowed to do it. So as I was saying about ending a relationship early, occasionally this will happen for lots of reasons. You can start off, you can write, okay, we need to do this. The mentee might think you're going on, you know, pushing them too much or not enough, or they're not understanding things, they're getting better advice from someone else. And it's absolutely fine to, you know, have those relationships that are ending early. You've got to clarify this. What I found best to do it is join your initial conversations, discuss, clarify how this will happen if either of you wishes to do so. So, you know, there's a get out clause and stuff. So it doesn't, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out, other times it does. I've had some really brilliant successes, which I'm really, really proud of. And other ones where, you know, we've had to part our ways, but we part professionally or comfortably, and they've gone on to do wonderful things as well. So that's about the end of my presentation. So I'll hand back to Tony. So any questions? Very well. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, John. Obviously, I'm hoping that we can open it up to the floor, and there'll be a few people on here that will obviously fire some questions over to you, because like I've said prior to even starting this event, that if there's anybody that can answer questions in this particular field, this process, I'm sure you're going to be one of them. Yeah, that can obviously answer that type of thing. If I, let's say, start the ball rolling, if you don't mind, with a question from me. I'm going to say to you that I've neither been a mentee or a mentor. So as you've been on both sides of the spectrum, how have you found being a mentor and a mentee? How have you found that it's helped you or progressed you in your movement through the scope of works, however you may want to see it?
Yeah, good question, Tony. Yeah, I've done both. I've been a mentee just recently because I've just gone through my fellowship with IOSH. I had a really good mentor with that. So Hugh Maxwell, you might have heard of him. I had John Beresford, who helped me out as well. So quite a few good names there, but I used them both. Like I said, I had two mentors who were both aware of each other. I got advice from both of those. Like I said earlier on, when I started out, mentoring wasn't really known. It was you were left out on a bit of a limb. You know, you did your qualifications, you got taught on how to do things, and then it was just like, right, okay, I want to go on and I want to get me chartership with IOSH sort of thing or something like that. And it was like you read up how to do it, but then that was it. You know, I went into the interview. I had not got a clue what was going to happen in that interview, and luckily I managed to get through it and came out the other end. I mentor quite a lot of people now that want to go into the follow the chartership route in IOSH. I'm picking on IOSH because I do a lot for IOSH. Yeah. But it doesn't matter, you know, mentoring is mentoring, whatever body you're doing it for, or qualification, or even just learning on how to, you know, do a risk assessment or something like that. The stuff is there. And it's just sharing your knowledge of you know, how you would, you know, you do with a small child sort of thing. You know, it's that sort of thing. Just sharing that knowledge, and hopefully they can benefit from it and flourish from it.
And you'd say, obviously, that you found that it's obviously helped you to flourish both as a mentor and a mentee.
Yeah, definitely both. Yeah, on both sides. It's good when I put at the start of my presentation. It's brilliant to watch somebody flourish. You know, I've just had one of my mentees, and I really did push him. Possibly more than I would have been comfortable with if somebody was pushing me like that. But I wanted to get them through, and I wanted, you know, and now, you know, they've got to their target where they wanted to get to, and they are so absolutely chuffed to bits, you know, shouting it from the rooftops. I invited him on here tonight, but unfortunately he can't make it. He's a very good guitarist, and he's a band, and he's played all over.
I can't remember his surname. I think it was Ben, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ben Heenan. Yeah. He plays a lot of gigs and that, so he was already signed up to that. But yeah, he's come a long way, and he's got to where he wants to be. I'm now pushing him, like, you know, why didn't you go for chartered fellowship?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So, you know, the world's your oyster. You stop where you want to do, and you call it, you know, you can just take a sit back and, you know, and go at your own pace.
Yeah, correct. I mean, some people want to go further than others. Some are happy to sit at a particular level, and that's it.
Yeah. Just talking about, I know I said coaching and mentoring, and there's different aspects. You know, it's like teaching, being a tutor, being a coach, being a mentor. I do a bit of both. It's not all down to mentoring, I don't think. You know, if you can guide somebody through a process, then you're guiding them through whatever techniques you use, whether it's coaching or mentoring. That's, you know, you're getting them to a goal where they want to be, and you know, you're helping them go and find the answers. You're not giving them the answers. I never give anybody the answers, but I'll guide them towards it. You know, try this, have a look at that. When you go into this situation, have you thought about doing it this way, and things like that?
Yeah. We've had a couple of questions through, so if I read through a couple of them at the very least before, I've obviously got a few more myself, let's say, as well. But Darren's put, what amount of time do you have to with a mentee? Is it a full 12 months, more, or to support them through a particular stumbling block on a qualification? How would you answer that?
Yeah, good question, Darren, and nice to hear from you again, mate. So yeah, how much time to give a mentee? I've as much as they want, really. That's, you know, there's no time period for it. Like I say, the mentee that I've just had, Ben, I've probably been mentoring him now for probably I will say probably about 9 months. he wanted to get through different stages, but the last, probably it was more full on, I would say, in the last 3 months. So probably 9 months to just, and just, and we probably won't talk to each other for 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes a month or more. And then all of a sudden, I really leave it up to the mentee to make the contact. I'm here, my phone's on, email's always on, I'm always available, my phone is always with me, so contact me whenever you want and that. So, and I tend to leave it like that with them, and then wait for them to come to me, and then I'll give them as much time as possible, or much time as they want. Sometimes they'll come to me and we can, we won't speak for probably, a month, 6 weeks, and then we'll probably have 2 or 3 days on the trot, like really, giving it as much as information as you want. I would say, I haven't had any mentees that have gone over 12 months. Normally it's about 6 to 9 months, if that. Sometimes it's a short period where they just want a particular stumbling block, like Darren's asked, where they just want to get over that hurdle, and it might just be a bit of advice.
So do you find that it's a qualification, or do you find that, for instance, it's helping people through? I mean, as awkward as it might sound, the membership grades as far as IIRSM are concerned, or any other organisation for that matter?
Yeah, it can be, it can be just, I'm struggling on this risk assessment. How would you approach it, or something like that? So it might be just a one-off task, or a lot of mine is getting through the IPD route and onto professional, onto the next membership level, and stuff like that. The problem I have is a lack of experience in the skills development portfolio and stuff like that, because it's, so I will look at it and I will interpret it in my own thoughts and put it back to them and say, well, I've thought about it, and this is how I see it. Is this how you see it? And sometimes it might be just like mulling things over with a mentor. How would you do it?
Yeah, that in fairness was going to be one of my questions, so I'll take that off my list. In fairness, about the IPDs, you tend to find that people only tend to look at mentors, mentees when it comes to the IPD process. Do people tend to look at it when they're low, pardon the expression, but lower down in that chain, that aren't looking to, or well, I say aren't looking is probably the wrong way to put it, but that haven't looked at stepping that next stage up yet. They're just coming into the process, or something to that extent, because I've tended to find personally that people don't tend to shout out about it until you start looking at IPD, for instance, where you're hoping to go towards chartered status.
Yeah, very much. A lot of mine is IPD and right the way through to the peer review interview. I mean, I sit on a lot. I've sat on over 200 peer review interviews. I've chaired, dozens of those as well. And the one bit of advice that I will say is, please get a mentor before you go into that room, because you're not telling them the answers, but you're telling them how to act in that room and how to give the answer best over to the panel, because that's what they want. And so I mentor the mentees to go in there and how best to answer a question, and doing it like this. So, bullet point your answers, give an example. That's it, and the worst thing that we could get is probably what I'm doing now, is waffling.
No, not at all. Yeah, I remember speaking about this to you prior to obviously this event taking place. So don't get me wrong, I'll say to an extent, thank you for the heads up, really, about what you were going to say there. But I obviously am mindful, like you are, that in fairness, when people go through for the peer review interviews, they should, in some aspects, have a little bit of a heads up of what's going to be expected of them, what's going to be asked of them. Yeah, and like you've just said, be given a little bit of guidance on how to speak to the panel, how to come back across at them. Yeah, and like you just said, they're not after you standing there waffling for 10 minutes about something that obviously they don't need to know. They're after a quick, concise answer, yeah, that's going to basically tell them that you know what you're talking about, you know
Yeah.
what you're doing, yeah, etc., etc. So no, I completely understand that. So, yeah, if I go to one of the other questions that are in the chat function, because it looks like it's only going to be me that's that's firing these across to you. So, do you have any do's or don'ts when starting out with a new mentor or mentee relationship? Do you have any do's or don'ts?
Yeah, good question again. Like I said in my presentation, have those early conversations, because sometimes you're not compatible, and it's only holding your hands up and not wasting each other's time. That's basically it. So do have those conversations. Find out where the mentee wants to get to, because you can help them so far, but then say, okay, I can get you to this stage, but then you will have to go off and find another mentor, because it's like the skills development portfolio and stuff like that. I don't have a lot of experience in it, so I can help them only guiding them through, when they're submitting evidence. The one thing to have, and I've learned this off all the mentees talking back to me, is when you're submitting evidence, don't submit all your evidence, submit one, because there's so many. I think there's 7 that you have to do. Submit one and get the feedback from the assessor whether that's good enough, because if you submit all 7 and all 7 are wrong, then you go back to square one again. Do one, submit it, get the feedback from the assessor, and work on that one again, or move on to the next one. So that's a bit of advice. But yeah, it's setting out what their aspects are, and what you can give them.
Yeah. Darren's also asked, just out of interest as well, do people ask you to support with mentoring through their CPDs, for instance, and what they need to record as evidence, etc.?
Yeah, very much so. It's a good question. That one is, again, down. I get asked that quite a lot. Especially, it's not too bad with IIRSM. I find their CPD gathering is very, very easy. The new IOSH one, their blueprint, it's a little bit, getting your head around it and stuff like that. It is very much on very much on CPD that I've given advice to, and after I've given it, you can see go. What is it? Is it as easy as that? And it's just like, it's just, just writing a diary event of it, really, and what you've gained from, putting down that CPD. It doesn't have to be a course with a qualification at the end of it. You could have been involved in a safety meeting that day, or even like this today, where you've gone in there and you've learned a little bit about mentoring, put it down as your CPD. You've done hopefully it's going to be probably about an hour, so you can put down an hour's evidence towards it.
Yeah,
I certainly will be.
and why not? Yeah. Why not? I mean, I've looked at obviously CPD, and personally, I've used templates in the past that, like you're saying, you can say, well, what was it you attended? Why did you attend it? And what are you going to do basically going forward? So a way of being able to record it is, in some ways, just keep that same template, and pardon the expression, but tweak the content to suit whatever it is that you've obviously attended, whatever you've learned from it, yeah, etc. So I've tended to find that a template's worked best for me when it comes to recording CPD elements. But yeah, I must admit, I'm, you can say, struggling in other areas, especially when it comes to CPD personally. Sometimes I find, don't get me wrong, you can say it shouldn't take too long, but it's allocating the time to do it when you've got such a busy day, in work and etc., that you sometimes can't even allocate the time whilst you're at work,
Right.
to be able to record your CPD events.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely,
yeah. Fortunately, I mean, like you said earlier on, as part of this call, really, this webinar, that the environmental agency are quite good with you personally. That you can get a little bit of time out from doing some of your roles within that particular field,
Yeah.
to be able to help you through these particular processes. So yeah, I can see, yeah, that that obviously does help, yeah, considerably. Darren's put, obviously, great advice, John. It will be going on my CPD also.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, why not? Absolutely.
Yeah, Steve's put, totally agree, especially when undertaking the MVQ route to gain vocational qualification. Drip feed the units and look at each unit on a domino and knock each one down, yeah, bit by bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's great advice, that is. It's
Yeah,
and it's you can relate that to any task. You know, break it down into bits and that, and do that bit and see, you know, and then do the next bit and do the next bit. You know, my ultimate goal was to become chartered fellow, but you know, 20 years ago, I didn't set out to do that. I set out to do the managing safely one. You know, and like when you introduced me, you know, if something inspires you and you get on to do the next bit, you just break it down bit by bit. And you know, when I became tech IIRSM, it was great. I've never had, you know, letters behind it. I left school with no qualifications whatsoever. My motto is, I left school with a bad report and 10 number 6. And I don't know if how old people are on this.
people won't know what number 6 is now, John.
Won't know what number 6 is. You'll have to Google that one. I'm not telling
you. Yeah, I completely agree.
That's it, you know, and that's where, and that's where I've tried to go along. I've tried to help and encourage, and you know, I don't know how many mentees I've had, but dozens and dozens of people that, you know, and you see them now with letters after the name, with charterships, even just, you know, a few qualifications, you know, NEBOSH certificate, general certificate, and things like that. That
yeah,
you know, they've gone that far, and they've been, you know, really, really pleased with what they've achieved at the end of the day. And that's what matters to me, that they can, you know, that they've got that achievement.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I've always said, it's always been my motto, you know, nobody should go to work to get hurt. They should always go home in better condition than when they went to work. And
you know, even if that's just a few more pounds in the pocket.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, and if you're getting a qualification by doing that, then you know, that's all well and good, and even better to, you know, better yourself. And yeah, sorry, I'm rambling again.
I'm laughing a little bit, John. I'll give you time to have a drink. But Darren's putting, he remembers Park Drive and Woodbine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the only one. Yeah. A question from me then, a quick question, I suppose. Like I say, I've put together a few questions anyway, just in case. But personally, again, wise, do you think that more information could be provided to members on this particular process? So, if, for instance, I was to say, look at the IIRSM website and look what it says, for instance, about mentoring, look what it says about mentees, or do you think that it should be pushed out to people, for instance, when they first join? Look, yeah, why not look at a mentor or a mentee position, because it will help you through this particular process. Do you think really that in some aspects more information could be given?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, I've said all along, I wished it was there when I'd had it there, when I was started off on this career drive, that I wished it was there. It wasn't there. I couldn't find anybody to help me, you know. And so the more you can push this help, this assistance out to folks, the better it's got to be for them. And you know, it's not closed shop. You know, there's a lot of people out there with, you know, far more knowledgeable than me and far more competent and experienced, that they can just relate to somebody on how to do things. That's what I was saying about you know, you could have more than one mentor, because, you know, I can give you the best advice on what to do in a peer review interview. Yeah. But on getting through your skills development portfolio or your open assessment examination, there's other people that are far more experienced in that can help you as well. So, you know, get as much help as you can, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, for me, in some aspects, like yourself in some ways, I'm hopeful in some aspects that somebody will take something away from this webinar, whether it be tonight, whether it be watching it back in the future. If somebody takes something away from it, then in some ways, like you would say yourself, you've achieved, or we've achieved, yeah, our particular goal. So I completely agree with that. And what's got me onto that particular area is that, don't get me wrong, not within this particular organisation. I can go back to our relationship, and when I say that in the right context, hopefully, yeah, the fact that we've obviously known one another for quite a few years, and just for instance, information that you can get off YouTube by watching, for instance, various webinars that have taken place, or without wanting to go too far to another organization, let's say, looking at mock peer review interviews and watching the video on that. I think that in some aspects was a very much clear and well step in the right direction, to giving people a little bit of a heads up to say, look, this is the process, this is what it entails, this is how you can get through it. Because to me, that goes a long way. Yeah, there's and there's a lot of people in some aspects that are probably, I don't know, in some ways that are like myself, that will just sit back, for instance, and not necessarily jump up and, let's say, start talking to the next person, to them, and, oh, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? They'd be more interested in, let's say, sitting personally at a computer, which is in some ways what a lot of us are doing nowadays, in fairness. COVID obviously is one of the things that's pushed people that way, but to just sit and watch, for instance, videos or tutorials, yeah, information that's been put out there by other people on how to go through these different processes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the technology nowadays has come on so far that you can just sit down and watch YouTubes all day and you know and become a plumber.
Yeah,
But it's all there. I mean, sometimes there's some bad advice on there and that, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information out there. And like you were saying, with that mock peer review interview. I know Darren's on here now, that
yeah,
me and him were on the panel with Malcolm and
yeah,
that, and that is as true to life as you will get it. There was no script involved in that whatsoever. I looked at it the other day, actually, when I was putting my portfolio together for fellowship for our IIRSM, which I've just submitted, and that video has claimed over 20,000 views now. And I know that IOSH put it out there as, if you are going through this stage, you need to go and have a look at this video. And there's nothing more in that video than what I offer as advice to when I'm mentoring. If you watch this, I'm not giving them the answers, I won't tell them the answers, but the format is very, very similar to that video, what's in that video. The question sets aren't the same, obviously, because we don't know what question sets we're going to get until that day when it's emailed to us. But the format is still the same. It's still A, B, and C of questions. And this is, and that's what I do to the mentees, is tell them the best way to answer it, the best way to come over.
Yeah. I'll say thank you to Darren again, because Darren seems to be the one that's popping up with all the questions. Yeah, but Darren's put, obviously you'll see it on there yourself, but do you find yourself supporting mentees more with mental health and stress issues? Obviously, them are two areas that have come to the forefront a hell of a lot over the last year or so, most definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Another cracking question again, Darren. I mean, the Ben Heenan, who's just going to, and I don't want to speak out of turn with Ben and that, but he was a nervous wreck. Before we went, and you can say that was part of his stress and anxiety and mental issues. It's all, it's all on different levels of what your stress and anxiety can take. But before we went to do his open examination assessment, he was a nervous wreck with that. He got through that, he passed, and went on to do his peer review interview, and just putting together his presentation, his 10-minute presentation. It was quite nervous doing that, and he openly admits to me that we all, like I was saying, we all have different stress and anxiety levels. He will think nothing of going and I'm going to see him
Performing.
in Derby Cathedral next month.
Yeah.
And in there, there's I don't know how many it holds, but I know for a fact that he has stood up in front of 1,000 people on stage and wrung the neck out of a guitar like no one else I've ever seen. And he finds that just totally at ease. That's his leisure bit. Me, I'd absolutely, I'd be in bits. But we all got those different levels. And yeah, going into that peer review interview, he was a wreck before he went in there. Calmed him down, told him how to, and he came out of it going, well, that was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Steve's put on the question, so is this presentation a bit like a micro teach? I don't know how I would answer that particular question. How you would answer it, I don't know either. But the way I see it in some aspects is just to give people a little bit of a heads up in some ways about a mentor and a mentee relationship, really. It's just about trying to put out there, what them two particular roles involve. How you might want to necessarily look at selecting a mentor or selecting a mentee, for instance. In some aspects, you've already sort of answered one of the questions yourself, John, that I had. That, and I'm sure I've read it somewhere that I'm sure it's, for instance, within the IIRSM organisation, that they sort of monitor how many mentees you've got and will ensure that you don't have more than what you can, for instance, cope with. But really, for me, this session was more about, like I say, what is the role of a mentor? What is the role of a mentee? Can we sort of, in some aspects as well, point people in the right direction? So, me personally, I would say there's the IIRSM website. There is a section on there that says, for instance, learn or something like that, and then you've got on there professional development, and you'll have mentor mentees, and there is a few paragraphs on the IIRSM website that gives you quite a bit of information. You can say on the process, some of which you need to be signed in at the time. So you'll need to be obviously be a member of the organisation to be able to see some of the information. But there is obviously information on there. So that's the way, like I said, I would tend to see this particular session, this open forum, which is what I wanted it to be more. So I wanted to basically give you, the opportunity to be able to say, ask your question. There's people that haven't started this process, haven't looked at the process, that, for instance, might think, well, I'm a bit, how do I do this, or what about that? This to me in some aspects was one of your opportunities to be able to put questions like that forward to somebody like yourself, that you'll rightly point out that you've been a mentor for too many people to a degree.
There's no mentor qualification or anything like that. You don't have to pass a teaching degree or anything like that. It's just it's passing on your knowledge and expertise and that, or even part of it. And like I say, you can sometimes, it's a two-way street. You get as much back from the mentee, and you go, oh, that's interesting. I'll keep hold of that. And so it's just knowledge-based sharing and that. I love it, the mentoring bit. I always love being a mentee as well, and
I mean, again, I've watched. I've openly said at the beginning of this that I have neither been a mentee or a mentor, and I can say, for instance, because of wanting to run this webinar and speak to somebody like yourself, that, like I say, has got vast experience within this. I've watched, for instance, clips about, for instance, mentoring and so on, and you'll get people that are on there and say that it can basically take, in some ways, as little time as you want it to. There's mentors that'll say, right, well, it's a quick 30-minute Zoom meeting with somebody. It's a quick email or two to somebody to try and point them in the right direction, like you said, not necessarily give them the answers, but give them a way of being able to find the answer themselves. So in some aspects, it doesn't have to, and that is what I was trying to establish with you, really. It doesn't have to take up too much of your time, and you don't necessarily have to be somebody that's, I don't know, that wants to basically be the be and end all. That do you know what I mean? That, oh, well, I've been there and mentored this many people. You do, I know you do, because of your passion for wanting to push people further, help people through the process. And I completely agree, and I can only thank you myself for obviously what you do, yeah, as far as this particular process is concerned, because it does help many.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said earlier, if you can go away from here and knowing a bit more about mentoring and coaching and being a mentee and stuff like that, and hopefully how easy it is,
Yeah,
then it's nothing to be scared to get into, and it's just just even if you just want a little bit of advice, go and get it off somebody, and that's being a mentee.
yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, yeah,
I've
listening.
sometimes guide just people. It might be just right. Okay, I want to be a chartered member, or I want to be a member at IIRSM. How do I go about it? So sometimes it's just a 5-minute conversation. Right, you need to do this, 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 and this, and this. And it might be that. It might be a 5-minute conversation. Job done.
Yeah, yeah.
It can be as quick or as easy as long as it takes.
Yeah, I mean, again, the videos wise, John, I'm talking the YouTube again, unfortunately, but
Yeah,
you'll get people that say, for instance, they mentor people that are in a completely different field to them and have got completely different experiences. And like you've said, in some aspects, as a mentor, yeah, you're getting as much from the mentee as they are from you as the mentor.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the questions, for instance, that I might ask as well, definitely before that we obviously end the webinar, is do you think the process is a must? Do you think being a mentee, being a mentor, do you think that's a must to people that are obviously going through part of their career progression, their professional development, etc.?
Yeah, I'd certainly push it as much as possible. That if you'd be surprised at how much information other people have got. So yeah, I would strongly advise folks to to get a mentor in anything that you're going to do. Any qualification, or even just like I was saying before, even if you're just struggling on a certain part of something, I don't really know how to do this. Can you give me some advice on do I don't know, risk assessment or anything like that, or or method statement and anything like that. To the full blown, this is the route I want to take to get to chartered fellowship. Then definitely use a mentor, because you will trip up a lot of times and go through wrong doorways before you find that right one. And if somebody can just say, right, come this way, this is the doorway that you want to get through to get to there, it's it's a lot easier. There's nobody should be ashamed to ask for help, and the help's there. That's the wonderful thing about it. There's loads and loads of mentors out there, and I don't know any of them that charge.
Yeah.
So it's all free. It's just experience and that.
Yeah. For me, I'll say in some aspects, it's not so much about an ashamed to help. It's in some aspects knowing that the help's there. It's knowing where to go for the help. It's knowing the people that are there to help you, yeah, etc., etc. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm going to say to a degree that the COVID and in some aspects the webinars may not have helped as much for me with this particular factor, because if I go back a number of years, John, and again, not trying to comment too much on our friendship, us knowing one another, where we met, etc. But you found a number of years ago that, for instance, there was more people attending face-to-face events. For me, and there was a lot of people that were attending them in some aspects then. There wasn't just, for instance, in some cases, a handful or a dozen or so, like there is, for instance, at the minute, which you tend to find it is tending to happen, unfortunately. But to me, and to some extent, that hasn't necessarily helped either, with people being signposted to different things. Because I might have, for instance, met you at a meeting, where obviously I did meet you, and you'd be there to give advice and information. I know, for instance, I could walk straight up to you and say, hi, John, yeah, what do you think of this? Or can you help me with that? And I'd have no hesitation now to say that you'd push or help me as much as you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is with with committees now and attendance and stuff like that, it seems to, like like you said, when we went into COVID, it seemed to have died off.
Yeah.
Face to face.
Well, that's why I'm saying it. To me, it hasn't really helped in that aspect. It doesn't really seem to give people the signposts in some ways as much as what you might have done if you'd have gone, let's say, to face-to-face events a number of years ago when there was whatever 40, 50, 60 people there. Yeah. So I find it is crazy. If I go back to one of your questions, let's say I'll just ask one or two more questions, if you don't mind, John, before we call it an end. But you mentioned earlier on about ending a relationship with a mentee. And I know I've partially spoken to you about this prior to the webinar taking place. So I just want to, in some aspects, put it out there on the webinar. Speak to yourself about it. So you can say on this platform that about ending a relationship. I know that, for instance, you mentioned it's important that you start off the relationship by saying, look, this is the situation, and there may be a possibility that we need to end the relationship for X, Y, or Z. I'll say in some aspects, don't get me wrong, it probably hasn't been or wouldn't be an easy process in some aspects for you to turn around to a mentee, as an example, and say, look, we're just not, I won't say compatible is probably the wrong word, but I'm not going to be able to give you in some aspects what you need. So you might be better going to somebody else.
It's one of those conversations that nobody wants to face. But you need to. I strongly advise you start off at the start, that saying, look, we might not be able to, be compatible, offer the advice, receive the advice that you want. And it might, sometimes it might be a bit of a wake-up call for somebody that, oh, right, okay, I didn't realise it was going to be as difficult as this. But it's holding your hands up and saying, if this does happen, then it's okay to say, the way I approach it, sometimes it doesn't happen very often at all, but sometimes if it does, I might point them in a direction of like, right, okay, I've helped you so far. Perhaps what you need to do is go and have a look now for another mentor that can help you better on that path than me, because there's a few more experienced people that know a bit more about that you're wanting to get hold of. And it might be the same for the mentee. I thought you might have been able to offer me this, Mr. Mentor, but would you mind if I go and find someone else to help me like that? Or we've just come to the end of the road, and I've decided not to do this anymore.
And in some aspects, I suppose that's where it's good to go back to something that you highlighted earlier on the webinar, that it's good in some aspects for mentees to have a couple of mentors that are obviously assisting them through the process, rather than just, for instance, focusing on one individual.
Yeah, absolutely. I strongly recommend having more than one mentor. If that's what you want to gain a lot of experience of different people, then you certainly get that. Under me at work, I've got approximately 50 duty officers. Some of them are going to be very busy tonight. Flood incident duty officers and field operations duty officers. And when I'm training them up, especially the flood incident duty officers, they start off as a fresh person, they don't really know much about it. I'll train them, and this is part of the training, the mentoring. Training is totally different than mentoring somebody. You train them, you show them how to use certain systems, information, procedures, policies, this sort of thing. This is how you do it. And then once I've done that, they've had their initial, and it takes all day, it takes a good 8 hours to do this training. And then I set them off with a mentor, and sometimes two mentors who are very experienced in doing that. As what they will be doing tonight, when it's chucking it down and making sure that the sluices are shut and penstocks are shut and patrols are carried out and stuff like that. So, but once I've trained them, they will then go on as a mentee, probably For 1 or 2 years, having a mentor, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 mentors, to guide them and give them different advice and different experience. You know, there's some that are very experienced, some that are not so experienced, and you can get a lot more information off more mentors.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely fine doing that. I recommend it.
Yeah. Just a quick one. I know he's in some ways had to shoot anyway, but I'll put it out on the webinar anyway. Darren's mentioned that he's totally agreed, John. As a mentor, you get as much out of being a mentee. Sorry, you get as much out of it as the mentee. Yeah, learning all the time from them, and nice to see them develop on their path wherever they may want to take it, or wherever it may take them, should I say, as well. So yeah. I agree with obviously what Darren said. So I'm getting back to another one now on the chat. It says, knowing your own strengths and weaknesses is key. It's what we do as health and safety professionals. I always hate it when someone calls me expert. I always say I don't know everything, and every day is a learning day. Thanks for the reminder, because no doubt our river will be over on the Avon. Thank you, Steve.
Different area for me. I'm East Midlands, unfortunately, but I do know the Avon very well.
Yeah. On a final note, John, I obviously am mindful that we've come up to the hour, and we were obviously only hoping this to be around about an hour anyway. So I'm going to say thank you again for obviously agreeing to join IIRSM West Midlands for this particular webinar. I hope and wish you obviously all the best in getting you chartered. Was it Chartered Fellow of
IIRSM?
Yeah. So obviously, I wish you luck with that, and hope that goes through. But I have no hesitation now to say I'm sure that it will, without any major hurdles.
Thank you.
Yeah. But again, thank you for tonight. It's very much appreciated. And like we've both said, all I hope, all you hope, I'm sure, is that somebody can take something away from this. At some point in the future, whether that be now or watching on a channel.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, thank you very much, Tony.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John. All right. Speak to you soon. Cheers, John.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.